How's it going, guys? Guess what? You guys having a great week. So I'm back today to actually weigh in and review on Ghost of Tsushima. This isn't usually the way I do reviews, but this past week I've had a really bad case of writer's block, and I've just been trying to get this review written, and it's just not flowing. So I thought, you know what? Just do it from the heart, Kate. Just say what you think about this game. Now, words can't express how much I absolutely fell in love with the Ghost of Tsushima, and it's probably one of the best games that I've played this year. I think the game is right up there with other incredible PlayStation exclusives like Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, and Ghost of War. And I just want to weigh in and sort of talk about the game, what the game is for those that might not know, and also why I just really loved this game and really enjoyed it. Just to give you guys an idea, I've played about 55 hours of the game, and I've actually platinumed the game. There are very few games that I have platinumed just because I generally don't have the time to do that, but I had to play every element of this game because I just fell in love with the island of Tsushima and the story of Jin Sakai. I have been waiting for an epic samurai game for, it seems, years. This is basically what every Assassin's Creed fan wants, a world set in feudal Japan, and that is what we got. I think Sucker Punch Productions have done an incredible job with this game. I actually think they're an incredibly underrated studio. Of course, they're well known for the Infamous series, and it seems right that Sucker Punch Productions, who sort of came out with Infamous Second Son at the birth and the beginning of the PlayStation 4, should really bring us the final last swan song, last game on the PlayStation 4, and it epitomizes the generation for this year for the PS4, is that it's just been a generation of incredible exclusives, incredible first-party studios, and some really awesome brand new IPs, and it just seems like Ghost of Tsushima is getting added to that already incredible roster. In the background, I'm just going to have some gameplay playing. I'm sorry this isn't the usual style that I do have. I usually write a full script where I really just sort of get to the point and have, like, you know, really specific footage, but I just don't have time right now, guys. With me working, Marvel Avengers is coming out on Friday, and also I am wanting to crack on with my Cyberpunk 2077 lore videos. So this might be very well the style of reviews that I do just for the future coming months when games are coming out, just to generally get these out to give my impressions to you guys and to let you know whether or not these games are worth picking up. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk about Ghost of Tsushima. So what is Ghost of Tsushima? Well, it's an open world action adventure game set in the late 13th century during the first Mongol invasion of Japan in 1274. Players basically assume the role of Jin, a samurai and noble of Clan Sakai. Sucker Punch Productions have really outdone themselves. They've created an epic cinematic story that just oozes with style and character. The art style of Ghost of Tsushima, its cinematic direction, and hauntingly beautiful soundtrack really elevate this game into something that is most definitely worthy of Kurosawa's samurai greats, which the game is so very clearly inspired by. We can see this right from the beginning of the game. It has one of the most epic opening sequences right at the start, where players get to experience firsthand the brutal tactics employed by the Mongol invading force. We actually see Jin and his samurai brothers charge down the beaches of Komoda, facing down their enemy in the honorable samurai way, that is of course head on, and of course it's a futile charge that leads to the death of hundreds and the capture of Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura. Jin is left for dead at the end of this battle and is ultimately rescued by Yuna, a thief who makes him realize that the ways of the samurai may be ill-matched against an enemy that does not play by the usual rules of engagement. What follows over the next 30 to 50 hours worth of gameplay is Jin's mission to rescue his uncle and reclaim his home. Along the way, Jin meets and recruits allies to help him in his fight and learns to gradually embrace the ways of the ghost, becoming a legend who instills hope among his people and fear in the hearts of his enemy. That's generally what Ghost of Tsushima is all about. Now let's touch upon the 3 pillars of the game in this review. Let's start off with the story. So I really enjoyed the story. I thought the story was actually really good. I will say that I didn't think that Jin Sakai was the most charismatic main lead. When we compare him to other similar first party franchises, he doesn't really hold up a candle to, say, Kratos from God of War or Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series. He isn't as charismatic as those characters, but he does do a sufficient job of being a dark, brooding samurai that we all wanted. So he does a very good job with that. The voice acting is incredible. You can play this game both in English and in Japanese. My first playthrough, I played it in English just because I didn't want to spend all my time reading subtitles, and I wanted to really take everything in. But I am really interested to play the game through a second time in Japanese just to see how it compares. What I think really holds the story up for Tsushima is the incredible side cast of supporting characters. That's really what elevates the story and what really works well. You know, these characters bounce off of Jin really well. These sidecaster characters are incredibly well written and complex, and they are really allowed to blossom as characters, and we do really learn a lot about them. So the main story is split into 3 different acts, and that covers 3 different regions in the very large island of Tsushima. You play through main story missions where you are introduced to these characters and the overarching story, but it's through these side missions that you actually get to explore each of these characters in more detail. These side missions are split into 2 different kinds. There's kind of like the character missions where you follow each side character and sort of progress with them and help them basically in their mission. And these are almost akin to Mass Effect's loyalty missions, where you get to learn a little bit more about their background, how the war has affected them, what makes them tick, and what's their motivations. And I will say that the sidecaster characters are really interesting. I really enjoyed experiencing these side missions. I didn't find them mature in any way, and they are a really interesting look at how the war has affected different people. So we get to see a warrior monk that's really questioning his religion and his faith, you know, in the midst of all this death and despair and destruction. We also get to see a samurai, a noble woman who loses everything. She loses her sons and her family and gets swept up in this need for revenge, in this cycle of violence and revenge, and how that kind of almost tears her apart, and she starts to lose a little bit of her honor and her morals. All the sidecaster characters were really good. I especially really liked Yuna. I found her character really likable, and I really liked her. But yeah, I would say the sidecaster characters are really good. There are also sort of side story missions as well, similar to, say, the Witcher series. So as you explore the world, you will find different NPCs that will give you side missions. Generally speaking, these were pretty well handled. They were a nice insight into how the war has affected the people. And one of the key themes throughout Ghost of Tsushima is this idea of war, the destruction that war brings, and how it kind of destroys people's lives. These side missions were not about, saving or rescuing people. Sometimes you would, come across an NPC and he would tell you about his wife and daughter that are being attacked or that have been kidnapped, and you'd rush to the location only to find that they had already been killed and you were too late. So some of these side missions do have a certain degree of heaviness to them. They're not light-hearted. They're not sort of this gonna save the day, I'm the hero kind of thing. That isn't really how it works. It's much more grey in the way in which they are written. There are also some nice elements of investigation as well, where you would, almost similar to The Witcher, go into areas and use some kind of like sixth sense to investigate what's going on, follow tracks, which would lead you to further clues. I really enjoyed the detective side of those missions as well. So the the content was really good. There was a lot of stuff to do in the main story. I thought the main villain, Khotan Khan, was really well done. I thought he was quite a charismatic enemy. Khotan Khan's actually the relative of Genghis Khan. I think he's the grandson, and he leads the Mongol invasion to Japan, and he's really charismatic. He learns the language, and he really kind of almost sort of taunts Jin Sakai and also his uncle Lord Shimura, and he's just very well acted, and yeah, he was a character that you did really learn to kind of hate but also understand a little bit. So it was really well done. One of the overarching themes in the story that I did really enjoy, though, was this sense of conflict within Jin Sakai that I really enjoyed. Obviously, at the beginning of the game, he is a noble samurai. He's been taught the way of the samurai, honor, facing your enemy head on, and as he gradually becomes the ghost and learns to embrace the stealth way of stabbing enemies in the back and poisoning enemies and doing really what you have to do to win the war, there is this inner conflict in him between holding on to those traditions that are epitomized in his uncle and embracing something new and having to sort of do what he needs to do, and there is this conflict within him that I really enjoyed, and I thought that was really interesting dynamic. Obviously, it would have been really cool if the developers would have given the players the choice there to decide which path you're going to go down, if you're just going to stick to the honorable samurai or if you're going to go full ghost. For me personally, I ended up employing a little bit of both, so I did a little bit of face to face honorable kind of standoffs and duels, but I also did employ some stealth in elements as well, where I felt that those were better suited. So I did a little bit of both, but I did enjoy the story, and it's a well written story. It's a nice length in terms of the story as well. I'd say the main story campaign and side missions probably accumulate to about 30 hours roughly worth of gameplay, so you're definitely getting your value for money here. And then there were some really cool little side missions called Mythical Tales, where you'd go to a location and listen to like a musician or something, and he would tell you the tale of a mythical legend, a famous samurai or warrior, and those are really cool. You'd hear about it, and then you would follow these mythical tales and these clues to uncover either really cool new weapon, new armor set, and sometimes new abilities that you would gain as well. And I really enjoyed the Mythical Tales, and I'm really excited that they are going to continue on that whole mythology and mythos in the multiplayer. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that progresses. So the story of Ghost of Tsushima was really good and is very much held up by its side cast of characters, which were very well written and very well developed, and so yeah, you're going to get a good story out of this game. The two elements though that I think make Ghost of Tsushima really stand out are the open world exploration and the combat. Those are the two pillars that are the strongest in this game and just kept me coming back and just kept me wanting to keep playing this game and not want to put it down. So let's start off by talking about the open world and exploration. Ghost of Tsushima is a gorgeous looking game. I mean, words cannot express how beautiful this game looks. It's stylish, it's gorgeous. The open world itself is so vibrant, is so full of life and full of things to discover and to do, and it's just a real joy to explore. There is a really good fast travel system in the game, but to be honest, because the game was so beautiful and so gorgeous, I spent most of my time just riding around on my horse and just exploring and just taking it all in. And the world really does feel alive, from the leaves blowing in the wind, the guiding wind that follows you around. Even the weather feels alive with some incredible sounding and looking sort of rain storms and thunder and lightning that happens in the world too. I just felt that the world, even during the day and also at nighttime, was just really, really, really beautiful. But the open world is really what's incredible in this game, and this really is a masterclass in open world exploration. I think this should be a game that other developers look at as an inspiration, as a way to move this on. Ghost of Tsushima is an incredibly immersive game, and one of the reasons for that is the way in which the developers have designed the open world exploration. Now, Ubisoft in particular and the team behind Assassin's Creed could learn a lot from this game. Obviously, Assassin's Creed is well known as an open world series now, and their maps tend to be cluttered with things to see, and the screen is cluttered as well with little points and arrows pointing here, a mini map in the bottom corner, and all this really distracts you from the world, and you spend most of your time looking at the mini map rather than actually looking at what's around the world and taking it all in. Well, Ghost of Tsushima does open world exploration and directs the player in such a clever way that it's incredible the way in which they do. So you have obviously a map which you can pinpoint certain things that you're interested in. There are main story missions on there. There are question marks that will pop up on your map which you can select. Once you do that, this will start what's called the guiding wind, and this is a wind which directs you in the right direction. So the wind will blow in a particular angle or a particular direction. You basically just follow this wind to your waypoint. But as you are exploring and traveling from A to B, there's a lot to be discovered along the way, and there are a lot of clues in the world that you learn to read, which is really cool. So for example, there are these yellow birds which will fly around, and if you follow them, they often will lead you to a point of interest. There are there's smoke in the world and the map as well. So if you see sort of a white smoke, coming up from the ground, that tends to mean something for you to explore. For example, there's tons of stuff you can do, from finding Inari shrines, which is where you can hear and find a fox, and if you follow that fox, they will lead you to an Inari shrine. Each of these shrines will give you access to particular charms which you can equip, and those give you buffs and bonuses in terms of damage and defense and all sorts of things. You can also find bamboo shoots as well. So these bamboo are basically like quick time challenges that you can do to hone your sword skills, and if you do that, this will give you increased resolve, and this resolve is used to both heal you as well as to unleash some amazing moves as well. You can also discover things like hot springs which you can stop and relax in. There's haiku that you can find as well, locations where you can sit and relax and reflect and meditate and write haiku. This game is such a mixture of the combat and war and elements of just tranquilness that you really wouldn't think would work together, but actually they mesh really, really well, and it's just a gorgeous game. And then there's other things that you can find for collectibles and resources and artifacts and lots of things. So there's so much stuff to do in this game and to discover, and then on top of that you have these incredible shrines that you have to find, and they require a lot of traversal and sort of parkour, very, very similar to Uncharted. You can climb rocks and cliffs and jump between points. There's a really cool grapple hook that you gain access to as well, which really gives you more options as well. It's a lot of fun to use, not only in traversal but also in combat and in stealth as well. It's really, really fun. I really enjoyed using it. But the open world is just so interesting. And then if you see black smoke, that will usually indicate an enemy camp that you can find and take down or clear out. So the open world exploration in Ghost of Tsushima is really what's incredible. The screen is so clean, there's nothing cluttering anywhere, so that allows you to really be immersed in the world, and then combine that with an incredible sort of visual design of the world. The world is so vibrant and colourful and so different depending on which region you're in. It's really amazing. And then the incredible soundtrack that goes on top of that really adds this sense of atmosphere and time, and it's gorgeous. It's just a beautiful, beautiful game. Now, I'm probably a little bit biased. As you all know, I am a huge fan of Japan, having lived there for 4 years. But I will say some elements of it did very much remind me of Japan and did really make me feel nostalgic. And that's probably why I platinumed this game, because I just loved every moment that I was playing it. So yes, the open world exploration is just absolutely incredible. There's so much stuff to do in the world, from the main story to side missions to exploration, and it's just really, really fun world to explore. Then let's talk about the final pillar, which is the combat. So I wasn't expecting to enjoy the combat as much as I did, but the combat in Ghost of Tsushima is incredible. It's split into two kind of elements. You have the open combat, and you also have the stealth ghost element as well. Let's talk about the open sort of samurai combat. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the combat was really intuitive and very easy to pick up and to handle. You actually get to learn how to fight in a flashback when Jim flashes back to being a child, where your uncle is training you. I thought that was a really clever way of doing a tutorial but making it part of the story, and Sucker Punch Productions are really good at doing that. They do that throughout. You know, this isn't obviously a tutorial, this is like a flashback where you learn things along the way, and I thought that was really well handled. Where we got to see a little bit of backstory and character growth. The combat is great. Obviously, when you first start out, when you're facing off against enemies, you can initiate something called standoff, which is really awesome, where you sort of wait for the enemy to make the first move. Sometimes the enemies will feint to try to encourage you to make the first move, and if you do and you don't time it right, they will hit you and they will really hurt. It takes you right down to a fraction of health. So it's about being patient, and that's the whole sense of samurai combat. It's about patience. It's about looking and reading your enemy movements, parrying, blocking at the right time, dodging at the right time, attacking at the right time. If you just go into combat, hacking and slashing, you're going to get hurt very, very quickly. You're going to die very, very quickly. So the combat is challenging in that way. If you do manage to succeed with the standoff though, and succeed in timing it just right, you feel badass. These standoffs are awesome. You can actually level this up to be able to do it, I think, 3 times, and then once you actually get the Sakai clan armor and fully upgrade that, you can actually then do it, I think, up to 5 times, which is just really, really awesome. Then when you're in combat, you have different stances, so you hold down the right trigger button and select up, down, left or right to choose a stance, and this is designed to face off against particular enemy types. So there are usually 4 main enemy types. You have kind of your swordsman, you have your shield and sword enemy types, your spear enemy types, and then your brute enemy types, which do massive damage. And you have to really pick and choose which stance is best suited to which enemy, and there are different moves that you can upgrade with that. The leveling system in the game is actually really, really good. You can choose to level up the combat side of things, so you're more leveled and more survivable in terms of open combat. You can choose to put points into the ghost abilities and ghost equipment as well, or if you're like me, you do both, so you're a nice, well balanced character. And by the end of it, I think I fully maxed out leveling Jin anyway, but the combat was really, really fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And then there are some moments in the game where you have some really awesome duels, which was really, really cool. Then, of course, let's talk a little bit about the stealth. The stealth in the game was a lot of fun, really accessible. There is obviously tall grass for hiding in. There's a nice verticality to the levels as well, so you can get up, assassinate from above. There's a nice kind of strain of assassinations that you can do. So I think you can assassinate up to 3 people, very similar to Batman Arkham Knight. So that was really cool. You feel really awesome in that moment. There is gear and equipment that you can use. So there's smoke bombs, there's wind chimes that you can use to draw enemies to you. If you're in the middle of combat as well, you can use black powder bombs to scatter enemies. You can also use kunai to weaken defenses. So you can mix and match, and I found the combat incredibly fluid, and it meant that, if your assassination did fail and you did get spotted, you weren't instantly dead. It wasn't as punishing as, say, The Last of Us was. It's much more friendly in the case of, if you do suck at assassination, don't worry, you'll be able to fall back on your open combat, and there's a lot of scope there for you. But Ghost of Tsushima, oh my god, guys, I mean, I can't praise this game enough. It's such a gorgeous game. It's one of the few games that I platinumed, and I really, really enjoyed it. If you are on the fence about this game and you're unsure about picking it up, without a doubt, I can't recommend this game highly enough. I think it is a must buy for any owner of the PlayStation 5. And yeah, it's just an incredible, incredible experience. Not just the story, but the world and the open world exploration and everything that you can do. It's just such a beautiful game, and it's very obvious that, the team that made this game were incredibly passionate about it. And that passion and that love, really, you can see it very clearly through every element of the game. And even the game itself has been massively praised in Japan and has been really positively received. And that's quite unique, because Japan can be quite protective and quite proud when it comes to their own culture and history. So the fact that they have praised this game speaks volumes for just how good Ghost of Tsushima is, and how well it has portrayed this period in history. So those are my thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry this review is a little bit rough around the edges compared to what it usually is, but I wanted to get this review out there at least to share my thoughts and opinions on it. This is just kind of like a flow of thought. Let me know what you guys think of the game in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think of this type of review as well in the comment section below. I am going to be picking up and playing Marvel Avengers on Friday. I'm going to actually trade in on the game so I can get it cheaper. But then I will be playing the game, will be reviewing it as well. I may do something similar to this for future reviews, just while I concentrate on my Cyberpunk 2077 lore videos. But for Cyberpunk, I will be doing a fully written review for that game, because I think it will deserve it. But anyway, my thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima, incredible game. If I was to give it a score, actually, I probably would give this game a 9. It may even be worthy of a 10 out of 10. It is that incredible of a game, and I can't recommend it enough. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the review. Hope you guys have a great week, of course. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys.